Hey folks, welcome to the webinar. We'll start in about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll just let as many people join in as possible. Um, I see we have about uh, 23, about 21 attendees today. Thank you so much for joining. Please put in like any questions or doubts you kind of have on the chat. The way I was thinking of doing this is I'll, just talk for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then I would love to open it up and hear from you actually on any questions that you guys have and kind of take it from there. Um, and I've kept it more freestyle. So I'll just talk and have it like a conversation, and then happy to open up and like answer any questions that you guys have. But firstly, before that, like, is my audio and video okay? Like, if anybody can post on the chat box, if things look okay, if you can hear me, okay. Thank you so much, Krisha. Thanks a lot. Okay, great. Okay, okay. Thanks a lot, Vaishnavi. Thank you, Kajal. Okay. Superb. Thanks, Tamanna. Okay, thank you guys. So I think one thing before we get started and let more people join in would be if in the chat box you guys can post, like give a brief introduction of yourself. So your name, at what stage of your career are you in? So are you still in college or in your masters, or like are you doing a job, and where are you based out of? And more importantly, like what are you looking forward to do in terms of cracking the Ivy Leagues? So if you could just put in a brief intro of like your name, which college or company are you at, and when are you sort of looking to apply, and for like what course, that would be great. And I'd get a good idea of like what the audience is like today. And that way I can tailor kind of my presentation accordingly. So if you guys can just start write, a very short introduction. Okay. Hey Raina, nice to meet you. Class 9, Vidya Shilp Academy, very nice to meet you. So that would be high school, middle to high school. Awesome. Yeah, until we start the webinar, guys, please start kind of posting a very brief introduction. Again, your name, which company or college or like institution you're from, and when are you looking to apply to like the Ivy Leagues. That would be great. Awesome. Hey Tanvi, nice to meet you. Awesome. Hey Tamanna, nice to meet you. Looking for a master's for fall 2025, which means you'll probably have to be applying in this application cycle. Awesome. Hey Vaishnavi, you're thinking of going for a PhD. Awesome. Um, Applying next year though. Hey Kajal, nice to meet you. Okay. Kajal, you're planning a master's in economics fall 25. Awesome. Hey Simran, nice to meet you. Hey Surina, nice to meet you. You're also SRCC. Hey Aditi, nice to see a bunch of SRCC students. Hey Meher, nice to meet you. You're looking to apply for an MBA. Awesome. Okay. So I think I have a good understanding of like what the crowd today is like. Awesome. Hey Krishav. Hey Ridhima. Planning for a deferred MBA, Masters in Economics. Okay. I think Tamanna says, awesome, you got through Columbia. That's very, very good. Um, sure, Parag, you want to take over for a bit? Yeah, please go ahead. I think, Parag, you may have to go into your security settings and uh, you may have to go to your security settings and enable you yourself to speak. That is not available at my end. Hey Manshu, hey Nihit, nice to see you guys. Hey Aditi, hey Nisha, nice to meet you. Hey Riddhi, nice. Okay. I think we have a very good, very well diversified crowd. Yeah, we'll start the webinar in about 5 minutes. So I'm doing this webinar in association with AcadFly, who are associated with Physics Wala. And the idea is just to have a very free flowing conversation on kind of focus on how you can build your profile to crack like the top schools. And I'll talk about kind of what some of my successful students and like people who I have coached and like helped with applications, like how we've prepared them, and also like um, with AcadFly kind of how they also help students and how they view it. So it's mostly like what are the things you can start doing today itself that will help you kind of um, crack the Ivy Leagues and kind of build your profile in your domain. And I'll give you real world examples of like what all you can do and what other people have done. Um, yeah. Parag, feel free to jump in whenever.
Yeah, yeah. I'm here, Vatsal. Hi.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm traveling, so I'll not take much of time. So hi guys, good evening. First of all, thank you very much for making it. And Vatsal, very good morning to you. Thank you for coming up, on a Friday morning and helping all these bright aspirants with whatever the goals they have. So just to be very clear, so my name is Parag and I am a consultant with Physics Wala in the study abroad like vertical called AcadFly. And Vatsal is one of our student mentors here. So hence he's here for the webinar today as the speaker, and he'll tell you all about his stories and how to prepare a solid profile for a Ivy League or similar kind of universities, right? So Vatsal, I think the flow can start with an introduction of yours and what have you done, and then I think you can start with your presentation and whatever you have made, and then we'll close at the questions. Yeah,
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks a ton,
perfect.
Parag. Thank you. And
Yeah, yeah.
feel free to jump in whenever
Always,
you
always.
want to.
Sure, 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 sure.
Uh, yeah. So awesome, guys. I'll in terms of like just a brief background about myself. So I originally come from Kolkata, so did my high schooling from Calcutta, and after which I went for my undergrad to Sriram College of Commerce at DU, uh, and spent like the best 3 years there. Had a great time, made some amazing friends, and really learned a lot. Then I took a gap year. I mean, I had a job offer from Bain and Company as an associate consultant, but did not take that up and attempted 1 year of UPSC actually. Cleared the prelims, couldn't clear the main stage, but I was only determined I'll take the UPSC for like a year. After which, you know, um, I sort of went to Yale University. So the way I planned my study abroad was it was meant to be more of a backup for my UPSC. So in the third year of my college, I had a job offer from Bain and Company. I had applied to four master's programs at Yale, LSE, Oxford, and Cambridge, and I'd gotten through all four of them. And I had taken the GRE and I went through that same grind. I had about, if I remember correctly, I had a 330 on 340 in the GRE with a 170 in quant, a 160 in verbal, and a 5.5 in my analytical writing. Even though the format has changed slightly, like largely things remain the same. Even like people I'm helping this year with the GRE, it's quite pretty much the same. So yeah, I couldn't clear the UPSC. So then I went for my master's in economics to Yale University. And this was a 1 year STEM program because I did not want to waste a lot of time sort of with my gap year already. So the 1 year program fit well with kind of my ambitions. And the US the US was one place that really always attracted me much more than the UK. Um, and I can go deeper into that later. So yeah, I finished my master's in economics. Then I subsequently got a job with the World Bank where I worked for about 2 years. Then worked at the IMF for about 2 years, to 2.5 years. And on the side, I've also been creating a lot of content on LinkedIn. So the content creation piece also started about 2 years ago, and it's enabled me to help a lot of students with their study abroad journey. So over the last like 2.5 3 years, I've done easily like 1,000 one-on-ones with students, helping them with their study abroad journey. I've also closely helped about 50 to 60 students one-on-one with their application end to end, with the statement of purpose, resume, letters of recommendation, interview prep, XYZ. You can name it. And a lot of my students have gone to Stanford, Harvard, Wharton, MIT, across MBA, Masters in Finance, Masters in Economics, um, uh, a master's in computer science also, and so on and so forth. So I'm really passionate about this space, have a good understanding, and more importantly, like I have seen from my own personal experience and from the experience of like a lot of my friends and people I've met along the way, as to what really ticks and what is it that really makes candidates stand out. Okay. And that is what I wanted to mainly share with all of you. And the way I've done this is that it's mostly an extempore kind of format. So to make it very free flowing, I'll just kind of speak for about 25 to 30 minutes. I will not bore you guys too much. On sort of a Friday evening, and then I would most importantly want to hear from you, because this is a smaller audience. We can really make it much more personalized and answer each of kind of your questions that you guys have, and I'd be very interested to personally hear out what your questions are, and we can answer questions for another half an hour. So I'm happy to sit with you guys until like 6 p.m., 6:15 p.m. IST, and kind of go from there. So I think um, to start off with, what I've let's just put things a little bit in perspective. So it's like, as people were introducing themselves in the chat box, in terms of like where they are and where they want to go, and what kind of role they're in. One thing that you have to understand about generally about study abroad applications, and here we're only talking about the Ivy Leagues, which are like the Olympics of higher education, and it's almost like the Olympics of study abroad, where these are the most competitive colleges, and you have the 8 Ivy Leagues, and then you also have a bunch of other colleges which, even though they're not in the Ivy Leagues, they're as good or perhaps in some cases even better. So that would be colleges like a Stanford or an MIT, a Carnegie Mellon, which is very, very good, or say a UCLA or UC Berkeley. UCLA, say not so much, but UC Berkeley definitely. It's right up there with a lot of the Ivy Leagues. And for some programs, you could say even NYU or UCLA. So the point is that in the application process, whether you're going for a master's in computer science or an undergrad or like an MBA or whatever it is, they will look at your application in a very, very holistic manner, and they will try to see, okay, what is it that makes this person tick compared to other people. So I think the very first thing you should be aware of, the very first thing you should strive for in your profile is differentiation. Differentiation compared to your competition and your cohort, and kind of the people in the same level and league as you. And if I were to double click and go deeper on this differentiation point, what I would mean is that compared to your batchmates, what is it that you are doing that conventionally other people are not doing? So to give you a few real examples from like my student clients or even my own case, when I was at SRCC and when I was applying to Yale, there were very few people doing research papers, for example. So my first kind of order of business when I was strategically mapping out what I need to do is, I was like, let me try and publish at least 2 or 3 research papers. And those research papers did not have to be in like the best journals, or they did not have to be very premium, but just the endeavor of undertaking research and publishing a paper in even if it's some third or fourth rate journal, just that alone differentiated me quite a bit. So the point is that if you look at any successful Ivy League applicant or people who are in the Ivy Leagues, they've done something or the other in terms of profile building, and they've been strategic about it. So I think the very first thing that I would want you to take away from today's webinar, if there's anything at all, is be strategic, be intentional about it, and start doing it early and start mapping it out early. And the best day to start is today itself. So if there's anything that, if I can convince even like one of the 28 of you on this call, on the fact that you have to be very strategic about building your profile and do it intentionally, I would have considered the next 1 hour very well spent, which is if I could even convince one of the 28 of you to really go all out and to really strategically start planning out your profile. And the key in that would be differentiation. Okay. Now, if I kind of go one layer deeper into how you can differentiate yourself, would be passion. So, of these 28 people on the call, a lot of you may have some passions that you're interested in and you're deep into, but a lot of you may not have any passions at all. And you may be just going on with the regular flow of life and the regular flow of like your routine and such. So the point is that how do you differentiate yourself on the basis of passion? So I think what you need to do is whatever you're passionate about, whether it's about business or whether it's about a particular music instrument or sport or like an extracurricular, or within your office or within your college, you're passionate about something, go deep into it, pursue it as much as you can, because when you're writing your essays and when you're writing in your resume and even in your interview, um, they will be very curious to know, okay, what is this person, what does this girl or what does this guy really care about? So in my case, if I were to put sort of passion, I think my passion for economics was sort of the central theme of my essays. So I had done two internships, which were very eclectic for that time, which were I'd interned at Paytm Payments Bank, and then I'd interned in the chief economic advisor's office. And both of them I actually got through cold emailing. So there was no connection. It was purely cold emailing and just hacking on LinkedIn and hustling on LinkedIn. And then I had like these two research papers, and then I had about three international conferences I had gone through where I had presented some elements of those papers. And then I had also done a lot of work as head of research in the Economic Society of my college. So I think these four things really enabled me to like build a differentiated profile, which other students did not have. Because the way you have to think is everybody more or I mean there'll be a lot of people who have very good GRE or GMAT scores, or they'll have very good SAT scores, or they may have very good, objectively good resumes and good backgrounds in terms of like the colleges they've gone to. But what they may not have are these subtle things about the profile and these achievements on the profile, right? And that is something you need to build for yourself. Okay. The second thing that you can really focus on in terms of building out your profile would just be doing genuine community service. Okay. So if you know whatever locality or city or community you're living in right now, whether it's in India or abroad, and if you have like even 2 or 3 hours per week of free time that you can intentionally take out, do a lot of volunteering. And I don't mean this in a specious or trivial way, which is don't just do community service for the sake of it, but do community service and build something on top of it, or like start a new initiative that you can call your own. So for example, I remember just when I had sort of finished my high school and I was preparing to leave and go to Delhi for my undergrad, I had about 3 months. And in those 3 months, I worked with the Missionaries of Charity, which is a fantastic organization in Kolkata. And for the Missionaries of Charity, I sort of led this vertical of financial literacy. So I did some work on like helping people with financial literacy. You won't find it on my LinkedIn because I mean I haven't posted about it, but that would really qualify as something that you could pitch to an Ivy League as well. And the longer you do it, the better. So start doing some community service, but don't just stop at like teaching students or feeding to the poor or like doing basic things. Go deep into it and start an initiative within that NGO or within that nonprofit that you can call your own. So once you do that, that shows initiative taking, that shows the fact that you're a leader. It shows that you're able to rally and persuade people, to your sort of vision, to your interests and passions. So I would say community service is one very important element that all of you should do, and that the Ivy Leagues really, really appreciate. I think a third kind of vertical that all of you can go after is just go after a lot of these competitions that take place. So, no matter what domain you're in, you will find a lot of youth competitions or a lot of um, maybe some colleges are running some competition, or some grant agencies or some non-profits or so I can guarantee you this, like whether you're in economics or computer science or uh, engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, chemical engineering, or in finance or any domain that you're in, or even if you're in sociology or anthropology or whatever it is, there will be some competition, sort of open, public wide competition that you will find available that you should take part in. And the other hack about competitions is that if you take part in these competitions, you will network and find like-minded people who are also similarly motivated compared to you. Okay, and what you can then do is sort of brainstorm with them, partner with them, and really learn from them as to what they're doing and how they're going about building their profile. So what happens is, if you take part in like multiple competitions and you are winning, or even if you're, say, placing in the top 10 or top 15 or the top 5, for example, depending on how big the competition is, that shows to the Ivy League institution that you are amongst the best, or you are amongst the prominent individuals or the upcoming individuals. That's a better term, actually. You're one of the upcoming individuals in that field or in that course. So, when I was in undergrad, and when I was at Yale, I took part in, I think, three competitions, and I had won two of them, and I was runner up in one of them. So at SRCC, we used to have this thing called the Best Manager competition, where I think easily like 700 or 800 people from all over India would apply. They had three grueling rounds, and then 10 people were selected as finalists. And then those 10 people had to go, like, they had to do 8 different tasks across 3 days related to management. So if I were applying to an MBA program, or if I were applying to any kind of managerial kind of um, course of study, I would really sell that and I would really evangelize that as part of my application, which is I won this competition and I did well. Okay. Another thing you could really pursue is try to create try to create some digital product, or some digital or even some physical product that you can call your own. So that would be things like, say, a book, or a series of poems, or like a series of essays on a particular topic, or it could be an online blog or a website or a community you could build. So, for example, some of you on this call, say, are passionate about investing, for example, or you're passionate about the stock markets, or you're passionate about financial literacy, since we were talking about that theme a little while ago. You can build an online community of like-minded people where you are talking about, say, that particular topic, you're exchanging thoughts, you are empowering other community members to grow, and you're really building something that is very differentiated and not a lot of other people are doing. Similarly, um, a book or a poem kind of series is a very high bar, and it's of course very difficult. But if you could do that, I've seen many successful Ivy League applicants who also have written some book or some short book or some online sort of very rigorous blogs, like at least 20 or 25 blogs on a particular topic. So my point is that really, the sky is kind of your limit, and you can think in terms of any canvas, and you can be very creative as to what you could do, and how you could approach things. So another hack that you can really apply in terms of profile building would be just stalk a lot of people on LinkedIn. Okay, stalk at least like 100 people on LinkedIn who are where you want to be like 1 or 2 years from now. So if I were say in high school right now, I would make a LinkedIn account if you don't already have one, and just stalk a lot of people who are doing their undergrad at like Harvard or Yale, or Columbia or like Brown, or any of the Ivy Leagues, and just see what is it that they were doing when they were in my place like 1 or 2 years ago, right? Or if you want to apply for your masters, really stalk 50 to 60 to 100 people and see what are the things that they have done. Like, it cannot get more first principle, and it cannot get more um, really authentic than that, and like a great way to learn about what is it that people are generally doing with their lives, and what is it that they did that got them to the Ivy Leagues. Is just stalk a lot of people. And I remember when I was applying, I had stalked at least, as I mentioned, 100 people, where I just really saw. And the thing is, because these would be achievements that they've done, a lot of them will openly talk about it and write it on their LinkedIn bio page or their LinkedIn profile page. So it's a very good way to understand what is it that people are doing in your specific domain that other people are not. um, Another thing that I would recommend, which you could do, is like, be a little entrepreneurial in life. Okay. So whether you're a dentist, or whether you're an engineer, or whether you are in finance or commerce or economics, do something which is slightly more entrepreneurial in your field. So create a small business, or create a small, it could be literally anything where you have unlocked and you are doing some form of entrepreneurship. Because I think every Ivy League institution these days is really hell bent and focused on wanting entrepreneurial candidates. Because no matter what field you're in today, whether even if you're an English literature major, or you're in sociology or anthropology, you can really build on your entrepreneurship skills. And these schools really like people who've done some innovation, or done some form of entrepreneurship within that domain or within that course of study. So um, in my case, if say I were to tomorrow apply to an MBA program, for example, I were targeting Harvard or Stanford, even though, I mean, I help students get to those programs and many of my students have gotten in. But it's like, hypothetically, if I were to apply to an Ivy League tomorrow, um, the way, like, I would really, really sell my LinkedIn content and sort of sell the fact that I've been able to build a decent business off of my LinkedIn, and really talk about what skills I have learned and what skills would be helpful for that Ivy League, for example. So the idea is that you are really able to like do something entrepreneurial, even if proverbially, you've built a lemonade stand, for example, or like you've really done even a small scale, or you've created an online course, or you've sold things online, or you have like any entrepreneurial thing. If say you're an aspiring dentistry student, for example, I would say help other people and kind of build a small dentistry practice where even if you're helping like 3 or 4 or 5 people a month, okay, in your community, in your neighborhood, or through online channels, that is a fantastic thing. And the Ivy League will really see that and again, it does not matter what the scale is. It does not have to be like, you don't have to be earning in lakhs or millions, or you don't have to have like hundreds of customers. Just the fact that you've started something and you've gone on that direction, and you've made some endeavors, and you have a few clients, or even like a few customers, that in and of itself will play a big role in signaling to that Ivy League that yes, you are entrepreneurial. Okay. um, Another thing that I've also seen other candidates do is really get engaged in sort of the company, or the community, or sort of the college they're in. So if some of you are, say, working in a multinational corporation or you're working in some company, um, try to really punch above your weight and do great work in that company. So, a great way to differentiate yourself is like if you've been promoted slightly early compared to your competition. So, a lot of students I work with, they've gotten, say, an early promotion compared to other people, or they are doing XYZ things within their own company on the side that a lot of their peers are not doing. And we make sure that we also talk about these things in the letter of recommendation and not just the essays, so that we're able to validate more credibly kind of your achievement. So if you've gotten promoted earlier, or if you won some internal award, or if you've been featured as like a good performer or a top performer in your company, that is also a great way to differentiate yourself from the herd and from the crowd, right? So make sure that whatever you're doing, you have a very holistic profile, and that you are definitely pursuing something, so that even the Ivy League college, even though you may not have succeeded, they at least know that this is something you are passionate about and that you're pursuing something. And if you excel at it, even better. For those in this call who are, say, engineers or computer science, with a computer science background, a lot of like very successful GitHub projects really work well to differentiate you. So I've worked with clients and people who've had very good GitHub repositories. A lot of people have pulled and sort of cloned their GitHub repository, or if they've worked with some professor and published some paper, or they've worked on some critical technology in as a job, or during their internship, and they've gotten some recognition for that technology or whatever they've built. That plays a very, very big role. A lot of these people also mentor other students, other people. So another thing you could do is really try to um, you know consciously think about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So are you helping you know propagate and really expand on diversity or equity initiatives, or you're making people included, in whatever you're doing that earlier they were not able to? So if you're, say if you're an engineer and you've been working in a multinational company for 1 or 2 years, you can start mentoring and guiding and coaching young people in that field, and that mentorship you can really sell very, very well to any Ivy League, and really differentiate yourself again from the competition. So these are like the idea more is just to brainstorm and to openly think, and sort of talk about it in terms of like what are the different things you can do. And what I would recommend, like I think a great exercise for like all of you guys, like some great homework and a great task for all of you would be that for all the 31 people on this call, think about where you are in the current stage of your life, and very creatively think about what are the things I could hypothetically be doing with my free time, or what are the things that you could be doing in your specific domain that would differentiate you, or that would enhance your passion for something, or that would just enable you to open up a new opportunity. It can be within your company, within your college, it could be a private initiative that you're doing on the side, it could be literally anything. So try to come up with at least three, four, five things that you can start doing today itself, or you can do slightly in the longer term with some patience across a few months or even a year or 2 years, right? And sort of start introspecting about how can you start planning and build it into your routine and build a work ethic around it and really go after it. So like, for example, one of my students who had cracked Harvard Business School last year, she was working in consulting, and she created this female consulting community to help young female employees who had just come into consulting get mentored and paired with senior people who were like senior women leaders in the consulting space. She had also taken very active part in the CSR wing, the corporate social responsibility wing of her company, and really partnered with a non-profits. Another of my students who cracked London School of Economics, which is not an Ivy League, but it's better than a lot of Ivy Leagues. Another thing that she did was she co-founded a non-profit venture in Mumbai for underprivileged children in the slums of Dharavi and help them with mathematics and English education, right? Another student of mine who cracked Columbia University public policy, she had created a community, an online community for actuarial sciences, and she had mentored young people who wanted to get into actuaries. So my point is like the sky is really your limit, and you can do many many things. Another of my students who cracked like masters in computer science at UPenn and Georgia Tech and a lot of these prominent institutions, he had like three research papers that he had published. He had co-filed a patent jointly um, with a professor of his. So even patent filing for like those of you who are more on the engineering side and the tech side could really help. And the patent does not have to be like crazy technical. Even the fact that you filed a patent is also a very big deal, and it shows that you're innovative, you're entrepreneurial, you love building new things, and that really goes a long way towards building your profile. And look, I think one thing at the outset again that you have to imbibe and really inculcate is that it's not going to be easy, and it's not meant to be easy, because you are talking about the Olympics of higher education, which is the Ivy League. So it's not meant to be easy, it's meant to be difficult, it's meant to be very differentiated, and it's meant to like you know be challenging. So all of the things that I've suggested to you, many of you on this call may think that you don't have the time or the mental bandwidth or really the aptitude, so to say, for this. But what I would recommend is, if your dream to get into an Ivy League is like very very intense and you're very hungry about it, you will find ways and you will find the time to like build your profile, and that profile you can really use in your statement of purpose, in your essays, in your letters of recommendation. That will help you differentiate yourself from the competition, right? So these are just like some of the ways that you can go about building your profile. And I think I've sort of touched the halfway mark now. So what I'd want to do now is like open it up for Q&A. And I think um, Parag, if you're there, maybe the way we can do it is people can raise their hands using the functionality on the Zoom button, and then I could ask you to unmute yourself or pick you out, and then you can ask your question, and then you can go ahead. And I'll try to answer questions for say another 20 minutes to half an hour. So let's cover as many questions as possible. Or if you could say post your question on the chat box itself, I think that should also be good. So we can go that way. So yeah, happy to answer any questions you have, and even if it's personal questions in terms of you can talk a little bit about your profile, and then what are the things you could do and what are the things that you've seen other people in your field kind of doing. um, that would be great. So I think to start off with, I think Tanvi has posted a question, which is, does this apply to MBA in tech innovation heavy universities like Stanford, GSB, or MIT Sloan? So I think firstly, Tanvi, I think even though they're conventionally tech or finance heavy universities, a lot of people go into these programs who are not tech or finance backgrounds. They don't come with tech and finance backgrounds, and many of my students who've cracked Wharton, for example, do not come from a finance background. So all of the things I've said in terms of profile building would easily apply for MBA as well. And sort of you can easily do that. Um, Another thing, like you could also start doing content creation, for example, on like whatever you're passionate about, whether it's like if you love traveling or if you love career counseling in my case, and you're posting content on that in any platform, you can really talk about that and sell that as well, in terms of profile building for your application. So really the sky is the limit, and you can think very, very creatively as to like what you want to do, and you can really go. I would say the thing with profile building for Ivy Leagues is go deep rather than going wide. So figure out one or two things that you're interested in and go deep into that, right? So Shlok is asking like any recommendations for history students. I think for history students, what I would recommend is if you can create like say a digital website or an online sort of blog where you are writing your own interpretation of history, or you're helping further education in history, or say in your community you're building awareness about say museums, or you're building awareness about historical facts in general, that could be great. Another thing you could do if you were a history student would be try to publish a paper in a history journal, or a journal where you're taking a different interpretation of like any historical incident. A third thing you could do is really just um, stock a lot of people who are who are doing something in history, and really do something cutting edge that a lot of other people um, are not doing, and sort of go from there. Um, I think, yeah, Tamanna's asking sort of how did I fund my Yale education, and any light on scholarships and funding. I think for that we can address that in a separate webinar, and I'll be having a webinar myself on that. And in terms of, I mean, I took an education loan myself, and that's how I went about it. So, but we can have a separate webinar for that. Um, I think Nihit is asking like, is work experience mandatory? I think, I mean, depends. If you're applying for say an MBA, it's absolutely necessary. But if you're applying for like uh, a course which is very academic in nature, say an engineering or an economics or finance, work experience does not matter. So I would say the way to look at that would be just stock and look at a lot of people. Look at a lot of people who are like um, who have gone for the program you want to go, and see what they've been doing. Another thing, guys, all of y'all, I mean, not all, but like if some of you on this call say have a family business, try to associate with that family business as well, and try to see if you can grow any vertical, or you can take any initiatives within that family business, because I've had student clients who've also been from family business backgrounds, and we've really sold and pitched kind of what they did in their family business. um Mehar is asking, how can you connect varied interests like baking and music to fields like economics and management? So I think what you can do with like baking, for example, is if you can build a small business around baking, or if you can build an online channel on baking, or if you can create some public digital good, whether it's a blog or something on baking, for example, you can talk about the business aspect or the managerial aspect or the economic funded the unit economics of that in your application for economics and management, and that is how I would go about it. And same with music. In music, if you can say pursue higher levels, or you can take part in competitions, or you've performed in front of people, those would be very good things that you could also talk about. um, I think Araina is asking a good question, which is which are good platforms in India to create meaningful contribution, community service slash SDGs. So I think you have organizations like Akshaya Patra or Robin Hood Army, or like Missionaries of Charity, which are doing very, very good work. You can also find a lot of them through crowdfunding platforms like Patreon or Milap, or like even just I think if you intensely search on Google, you should be able to find like many, many of those. Um, just one second, please keep the questions rolling in. What we can do is you can keep the questions sort of rolling in, and I'll sort of address all of them sort of together. Just give me a minute. Yeah. Okay. I think. Okay, so I think Tabish is asking, hey Vatsal, working in creative industry, 4 years of work experience, particularly social media and YouTube. What can I explore apart from building an audience slash content creation? So I think um really again depends, Tabish, on like what course you're going for, of course, because you want to have some alignment with the course you're doing and kind of what work you've done. Um, but for example, if you're working on social media and YouTube, maybe try to like try to explore if there are use cases with some technologies like say HubSpot, or like there's so many of these social media analytics platforms like a Sprinkler or a HubSpot, and try to see if you could create something more cutting edge in content, for example, or if you could really push the boundaries of content creation itself within your industry, or if you could create, say, a community of like content creators who can learn from each other. You guys meet like 2 or 3 times a year, and you're kind of the president or co-founder of this community. This building a community on top of like social media and content could be a very interesting thing that you could definitely do. Yogesh is asking like, do gaps in your resume create a problem? I don't really think so. Um, I mean, it's all about how you show that gap. And Ivy League institutions are very sensitive and are very appreciative of like students taking gap years, but it totally depends on how you write about it and how you own up to it. If you own up to it saying that, I was figuring things out, and then you can show that through the gap year you were able to figure things out and you were able to sort of course correct and get back on the right track, the Ivy League institution will really really like that. That is how I would recommend you to go about it. So for example, in my essays I had written about UPSC. I wrote openly that I was pursuing this, and and there was no qualms or problems with respect to that. um, I think Simran is asking in terms of, you know, dependent visa, don't have a work permit yet. How should I work towards my entrepreneur side? I would say if you don't have a work permit, do something for free, for example. Do something in the community, volunteer in your community, coach people, or volunteer to like write a cold email to like professors or schools, their principals and like professors, and tell them that you would want to talk on Zoom, for example, to their students about how what is it like being a dentist, and so on and so forth. So there are many things you could do. um, I think Ridhi, what you could do is like, I think with your question, you could just email Parag or myself personally, and we could help, because that's more a matter of like, it's a very very nuanced question, which kind of in terms of the profile it could be way too nuanced. But I think for economics, what I could definitely tell you is what you should do, if I think you would have fallen short, is like improve your GPA. I think for economics and finance that matters a lot. Really take some math oriented courses or do some research work. Try to like publish some research if you can. So whatever paper you might have written in the past, try to get it published in some journal. And try to, even if you're doing any internship or you're doing any work, ensure that you're doing economics as part of that. So I think those would be some ways you could enhance your profile, or even say have a better GRE score. I think that also becomes important. um, I think okay, I think there's a poll going on, so uh, you could apply for that. I think so. I think Himanshu, like I don't think you would need like prior private equity experience. Um, I think what you can do is like just apply for an MBA straight away and don't do multiple degrees just for the sake of it. Once you get into an MBA, like you can easily apply in like impact investing or PE roles itself later on. I would not recommend you to reverse engineer your profile just for that. Um, Kajal is asking if I don't have a master's if I don't have an undergrad in econ, what chance do I really stand? I think if you have an undergrad in, say, some type of engineering program, or an undergrad in math or statistics, or even if you have an undergrad in commerce, but you can really show that you've taken a lot of mathematics courses and that you really have a deep interest in economics by way of your work or what you're currently doing, those are ways you could compensate. But yes, the competition is pretty intense. And that is how I would recommend going about it. um I think, Tanya, for a PhD, I don't think these extracurriculars matter a lot, to be honest. Um, I don't think it really matters a lot in terms of a PhD. In a PhD, they're really looking for kind of sort of very demonstrated commitment and excellence in your academic field. So, like publishing papers, having great letters of recommendation, and so on and so forth. So, the PhD clients that I've worked with, they do not really care about extracurriculars at the PhD level. It's more at the undergrad and master's level. Um, I think Krisha is asking what skills should one develop to get in masters in econ and LSE. I would say have a great GRE score that really helps. So like at least a 167 or 168 in your quant. And I know that's high, but you need to have that much. You need to have done, say, some internships or have done some research. That really helps. Take a lot of mathematics oriented courses, so like differential equations, multivariate calculus, linear algebra, and so on and so forth. Talk in depth about your short and long term goals, and really talk about some of the courses you've done in undergrad, and what did you learn from that course, and why did that course really appeal to you, and even at LSE, what are the things you're planning on doing. um Aditi is asking, um I you know pursuing an MBA in finance after 2 3 years of work experience, any tips on how to go ahead? So I would again say, like, it depends really on what your interests are and what your innate interests are, and how can you start developing your profile from there. So like all the ideas I suggested in terms of community building, or really excelling in your own company, or really pursuing your passion to the fullest. So one of my student clients from this year who got into Stanford, she had like a bachelor's degree in Kathak dancing. And of course, like, she's been doing that for a very long time, and you don't need to have a bachelor's degree in Kathak, but her passion was dancing. So she really took that to the next level. So I think it's like whatever you are interested in, take that to the next level and find your passion. Because for Ivy League universities, passion and purpose really matters a lot. Um, and sort of you go from there. Yeah, so I think, Ridhi, please feel free to reach out to me individually and we can talk. I would say even Tanvi, feel free to reach out to me or Parag individually about how to prioritize extracurriculars separately, and we can have a one-on-one as well. Um, I think for deferred MBA programs, I'm probably not the best person. I think you should research, because I've not had clients with deferred MBA backgrounds. Um, so yeah, I think we've answered like a lot of the questions already. Parag, do you want to say jump in, or sort of, do you have any thoughts or observations in case you're there? Okay. I would say, guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to keep asking them. I'd be more than happy to like answer and talk about it, and talk about like any things that are, say, unique to your profile. Um, yeah, absolutely, Planita. I absolutely do that as well. Like, you can go on my top mate as well, and you can also take Parag's help and Physics Wala's help. So yeah, I think if any of you are willing to like um want one-on-one career counseling, I absolutely do that. I've done that for like more than 1,000 students via TopMate. And if you just type Vatsal Nahata TopMate on Google, try doing it. Say after a few hours, I have to make some settings changes over there. But yes, I absolutely help people one-on-one as well. Let me see if I've not missed out on any questions so far. Mm. I think the best way to kind of understand how you can differentiate your profile would just be to like stalk a lot of people who are where you want to be 1 or 2 years from now and just see what are the things that they've done. If you can't find what they've done on LinkedIn, try to Google search them and you should find something or the other. But my point is, be creative and be intentional about it, be strategic about it. You don't have to necessarily stick to like only the thing that other people are doing. So like be creative in terms of what you can do. um no, Ridhi, I was just saying that yeah, you feel free to email me one on one and I can help you out. Um okay uh Ashulipi is asking, does MBA make sense for impact investing or anything related to sustainable development? Or would that be too much investment not worth in the long run? So I think I'll have to really understand your profile a little bit better and what is it within sustainable development, or that you mean. Impact investing should not be a problem. You'll get good salaries in impact investing, and even in the case of sustainable development, you can go for things like a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or a Dalberg or the IFC or the World Bank, say, after your MBA as well, and that should not be a problem. So there are, I would say, the way that you should answer this question is just look at, are there people um, who are working in sustainable development or impact investing who come from an MBA background. Reach out to them, talk to them one on one, and sort of take it from there. And folks, I'm posting my email ID on the chat box. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to like reach out. I'll also post Parag's email. So if any of you have like study abroad queries and you want help, AcadFly is doing a pretty good job, and they're one of the few sort of um, people in this space who I do trust. And Parag and I go a very very long way. So um, I absolutely trust him as well. So I'm also putting in his email ID. So feel free to reach out to him or me with like any kind of study abroad or career queries, um, and sort of go from there. Um, okay, Tanya is asking, do you also provide consultation for PhD candidates? I think not for sociology. I think I sort of specialize for like MBA, Masters in Finance, Masters in Economics, sort of the hardcore business and quantitative finance fields, and also like CS and engineering. But I would say for sociology, you can easily like reach out to Parag and the people at AcadFly, and they'll be able to help you. So yeah, I think if I'll wait for another 2 to 3 minutes. And if you have any questions, please keep them coming. Otherwise, we can wrap this up, and you can also enjoy the rest of your Friday evening on other pursuits. Um, Okay, so I think Yagnesh has a question that regarding undergrad from a different background. In order to build a profile for a PhD, how could one go about equipping sufficient calculus skills? So there are many, many courses on Coursera, Udemy, on multivariate calculus, on differential calculus, on real analysis as well that you could take, which will definitely, definitely help your profile. So a PhD in economics student client of mine, um, who I had helped with very closely. I had I had handpicked 2 3 math courses for him, which you can also find online, which I had forced him to do because that did help him in getting admitted to his dream university. So I would say these are some courses you could definitely be doing. I think, Aditi, like the question you are asking, you could probably ask ChatGPT that. Like, of course, like I think it does play some role, although I would say not like an entirely optimistic role. And I think if you want to book a one-on-one consultation with me on TopMate, I would say wait for like 1 2 hours, and you could go from there because I have to make some profile changes over there. I've already posted my email, Simran. So it's basically my name, Vatsal.Nahata at aya.yale.edu. So AYA stands for Association of Yale Alumni. So that's sort of my email ID, and you could reach out to me. And or you could also please reach out to Parag and the folks at AcadFly. They have very good consultants and they're very legitimate people. And Physics Wala as a brand is like amazing. So that's the reason why I partnered with them for this webinar in the first place, because they're very legit and they're very, very good. So I would say, yeah, like if there are no more questions, I think we can call it a wrap because it's been about an hour now. So I think I would just say thank you so much for joining in, guys, and feel free to reach out to any of us for any help that you need. And I wish you the best. And there is so much that you guys can be doing, and you can get cracking on your profile. And I would just wish you the best, and all the best for your study abroad journey. So yeah, you guys can start exiting the call. And Parag, if you want to jump in or say a few words, or we could just end this call. Up to you. Yeah, yeah. I'll just put in my email ID again. You can take a look at it, and I'll also put Parag's email as well, just in case. So you could feel free to like email both of us. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, guys, I think if there's no other question, I will end this call, and I'll leave the call, and let me know if you have anything else. I'd be happy to help you guys out. Yeah. Take care. Have a good evening or a good morning, whichever part of the world you're from. Bye bye. Take care. Bye.